Indeed it is. All right, welcome back. This is week 3 of our Lenten series, The Last Supper, Conversations That Led to the Cross by Will Willimon. Tonight we're going to be in Luke chapter 15. Luke, I am your father. Different Luke. Luke chapter 15. All right. This session here deals with some of Jesus's most beloved and most disturbing stories. Let me give you a scenario here, or a scenario, depending on how you look at it. Imagine your church's biggest donor announces they're leaving all their money to the church when they die. Thank you. But then their estranged child who hasn't been to church in 20 years and has a reputation for wild living shows up on their deathbed, and the donor decides to throw a huge welcome home party instead. How would your congregation react? Well, let's assume that they do. I'd be madder than a boiled owl.
I would be happy for him.
And see, I was thinking, I
Me
think I would be
too.
glad that the person came home and
The
came.
prodigal son. Been there,
Yeah,
and been there, did it.
yeah.
Well, there goes job security, Now, I'd say that 9.9 out of 10 people in the congregation would be looking at this going, you promised, and we'd already started spending it, and who is this guy? Do you even know if he is your son? You need to bring Maury Povich in. You are not the father, but so, yeah, go ahead.
At the church, there was a church a while back that would talk the older people into leaving in their will to write the church in to get everything they had. And then at the funeral, some people in the church would be there to literally take the jewelry and everything off of it.
Oh,
Left
my.
it for the family to bury.
What do you think I'm going to do to you?
Oh, I don't have anything valuable, so.
Everything sells.
Made a big church in
My goodness.
Decatur.
Yes,
I
sir.
can't think of the name of it.
No.
But they did that.
No.
Is it Eddie Long Church?
Huh?
Not the Eddie Long Church.
No, this was a Baptist church.
Oh, okay.
It was in Decatur, cut her off of Stone Mountain Freeway, before Stone Mountain Freeway comes into 29th Highway.
Yep.
Back down there to the left.
You said
The name of it.
9.9?
I think so.
I'd say 8.
I'd
Yeah.
say maybe.
Well,
And
you
then
know.
those that know better.
yeah.
I'd say
Well,
8 to 10.
Let me get us into the lesson a little bit more by reading Luke 15, verses 1 through 2. Okay? All the tax collectors and sinners. By the way, these 2 verses are the key to interpreting the 3 parables or riddles that follow. All the tax collectors and sinners were gathering around Jesus to listen to him. The Pharisees and legal experts were grumbling, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." The religious leaders don't criticize Jesus' theology. They're not going after that. They grumble about his dinner companions. Why does that matter? Why does that matter to them? Okay.
Well, and they're
Okay.
above
Right.
everybody else.
Both right.
And if he's
Both right.
who he says he is, then he should be above that.
Then why in the world is he hanging out with this with? Right? Yeah. When has your church grumbled about who Jesus welcomes? We're going to get into it tonight. I know of a couple of cases.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We brought one up already last week.
we did, yeah.
Mhm.
If you weren't here, that was Ms. Lois Murphy.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I remember.
We're not, Lois, if you happen to be tuning into this, we're not calling you out or anything. We're calling out the behavior towards you. So just Throwing that out there. Okay. All right. So now, let's see what we got here. Oh, I think when we look at these three stories, our author here, Dr. Willimon, says that these three stories show God's horrible home economics. They really are. They're not models. Horrible home economics. We'll start with the sheep. The man with the sheep. He has one sheep, goes astray, leaves the 99, right? Oh, that's a good story, isn't it? But meanwhile, while he's going off to get the one, the 99 have run off. He gets back, and guess what? They're not there. That him, 99 safe in the pen. That's not how this story goes. He leaves the 99 in the wild and goes after the one. And when he gets back, that's all he got. The 99 are gone. That's not good shepherding, right? Can we agree on that? The lady with the coin, 10 golden coins, right? She loses one. So she just leaves those other 9 over here and starts ripping up the floorboards and taking the furniture apart and taking the mattresses off the bed and doing all that to try to find this one coin. Meanwhile, somebody comes in and takes her other. I'm looking at the budget for the next month and I'm going, not going to be able to pay those bills. That's bad home economics. And don't even get me started on the third story. You know, I will tell you this right now. Fred Craddock got called at 9:15 on a Sunday morning to teach Sunday school. Their teacher had been called in sick. Sunday school started in 20 minutes. He said, I can't do this. I've got to have time to prepare. I said, oh, you can do it. It's New Testament. We're going through the parables, and we're going to do the prodigal son. So he said, all right, I'll do it. And then all the way there, he was seething. He was like, I can't do this. He said, so he had a plan. He said he could get there, and he's going to tell the story backwards. So he said, there's a man who had 2 sons. The youngest son went off, took half the inheritance and went off. Said, well, but he came to himself. And then when he got home, when he approached the house, he heard music and laughter and saw dancing. And so he went up to one of the servants and said, what's going on? He said, well, that brother of yours, the one who stayed home and served the father the whole time, your father's thrown him a party. Your father's son, because of that, killed the fatted calf for him and everything. He said he had no sooner got through telling that before he started into his lesson that a lady propped her hand up in the back and said, that's the way it should have been. Right there. That's why I'm telling y'all crazy to think that anybody in the church would have been happy if this donor would have pulled his money out. I don't care how many years you've been estranged. And I've got a PhD in estrangement. I'm telling you, it don't make any difference. If the money's there and the plans are already being made, I appreciate that, but no. So, all right. Now, the reckless shepherd. All right. Somebody read Luke 15, verses 3 through 7.
So he told them this parable: which one of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? When he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost. Just so, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance.
All right. Now, I want you to put yourself in the crowd. Jesus is telling this story, and then Jesus asks a question after he tells that story. Which one of you wouldn't do that? He looks at the crowd. What you get here are people are rolling in the aisles with laughter, going, tell us another one, Jesus. And they're laughing that none of them would do that. We're not going to leave the 99 and search the one. Now, what Willimon says in his book, which I found great, was that the sloppy sower, you remember him?
Yep.
Has switched jobs. to become a reckless shepherd. So what does this tell us about God's character? Because that's who this story is about. By the way, that's how all three of these stories are about. They're not about us. You know, they're about God. So again, what does this tell us about God's character?
He's for that.
He's reckless. He's extravagant. I mean, that's
But it's-
reckless. Go
For
ahead.
him, it's worth it for that one.
Now go back. Remember verses 1 and 2? The tax collectors, they're griping about Jesus, right? All right. Go ahead.
Say greedy,
What's that?
say greedy.
God is greedy? Yeah.
Well, if you look at it like this, he is so greedy about what he's got that he's willing to leave the 99 to go get that one that's lost
Okay.
because he can't stand the fact that he lost anybody.
Mm.
You understand where I'm coming from? I'm not saying God's greedy, but
Mm.
from looking at it at one point, that'd be the way it'd be. You know, I gotta have that one, even though I've got this 9 over here, 99 over here. I gotta have that one.
He's willing to give up the 99.
You know, it reminds me of Star Trek, the movie, when
Thank you.
Spock says the good of the many, not the good of the few, and all that.
The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. Oh, is it the rest?
It's not, it's
Okay.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But.
Yeah.
But
I just want your being recorded. I want you to be. Okay.
Just being correct.
Okay, there you go, there you go.
Got that word right. Yeah, I can do that.
The needs of the many
Yeah.
or the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. That's right. There you go. I like it. That's a good analogy. All right, that's good. No matter what movie it's from. There you go. I'm glad you said that. That's right. So, how does knowing this, that God is a scandalous shepherd, how does knowing that change how you hear the story? Because remember, what's the scandal going on in front of the legal folks right now? Who Jesus is eating with.
Yes,
Sinners
yeah.
and
See, he's eating with the one.
bad.
Right.
He's eating with the one. Yeah. See, how's that change the way you view the story? Is it broad? Does it open God up? You know, God may be bigger and more. Here's the word. I know it's a hot button word. I don't like using hot button words, but here it is. Inclusive. Yeah, God is the king of inclusivity. Thank God. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a shot. Thank you, Lord. All right. Well, we move from the scandalous shepherd to what Willimon calls the house wrecking woman. All right. So somebody read verses 8 through 10.
Or what woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp and sweep the house and seek diligently until she finds it? And when she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I had lost." Just so, I tell you, there is joy before the angels of God over one sinner who repents.
Go. Now, just like I did with the last one, imagine Jesus says, everybody said, well, which one of you wouldn't do that? Nobody would act like that. None of us would engage in such horrible home economics, much less throw an expensive party for a trifle like one recovered sheep, or a single small coin retrieved. None of us, really and truthfully, none of us would do that. Now, why does the woman's behavior seem so excessive for finding one coin? Why is it excessive? This is not a big theological answer here.
It's just one coin.
Yeah, why would you risk
There was still
9/10 of
9
what you
others.
got?
Yeah.
But it's a day's wages.
Right.
Mhm.
It is a day's wage, but you've got 9 days' wages sitting over here. And while you're looking for that one, somebody can come in the house,
and
Take it all away.
Good, but she's got nice neighbors.
Well, okay, there you go. Yeah, she must live in Galilee. All right, there you go. So what does this story reveal about what God considers valuable?
The lost.
Huh?
The lost.
The lost.
Hmm.
He values the lost. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. These 9 are fine right where they are. You know where they are. They're fine. You guys are still going after the same 9. I'm going after the ones that y'all won't go after.
And we're quick to leave that one.
Oh yeah.
Well, and it says that, the value that he places on the one has nothing to do with the monetary value of the.
Of course not.
Mhm.
Mm-mm. No, doesn't. That's wonderful. This is what it says here. God's kingdom accounting is different from what counts in our kingdoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, God. Yeah. Oh, the gas prices. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Especially your car. That thing eats gas
It does.
even when it's sitting. Yeah, I think. Yeah. What's that?
Kroger,
Yeah, it's not much better.
$2.99.
No, yeah, that's up
Better
in
than $3.50.
But that
That's up in
is it
Bufford.
the Kroger card though, or the-
we live in Snellville, and
That's the price.
Okay.
we live in Snellville. Yeah,
First thing, it depends on the area. that you're in.
yeah, maybe in Bufford it's $2.99. Yeah, but no,
Tell people to smell
stop that.
good.
Yeah. All right. When have you seen the church value what the world considers worthless? Because that's you getting this? These people.
When, say that.
Okay. When have you seen the church value what the world considers worthless?
I need these questions beforehand so I can think.
Now, that's the second time I have heard this today, Cheryl, about questions and getting them beforehand.
No, because I have to think about it.
But even on Sunday, look at Sunday, a lot of what people would say,
Wonderful.
just leave him alone.
Yeah.
He has done this, he's done that. And I hope nobody at New Hope is saying that.
I sincerely hope
Because
not.
This is
That's good.
so Sunday.
Yeah, Sonny's the one.
That's a good. that's a
He's the
good-
sheep. He's the coin. Yeah. Of infinite worth to God. Reckless, scandalous worth to God. Yeah, I like that.
I do too. That was good.
Now, Willimon says he heard this story when he was a child. He still remembers the pastor's sermon. He says, the most wonderful, comforting word in the Bible. That was the name of the sermon. The word, it's prominent in these 2 stories. Until. All right. So if you read it in the story, until. That's the word. He says that was the most wonderful, comforting word in the Bible. He searched for the sheep until he found it, or the coin. Searched for the coin until he found it. Jesus has found the coins in these people. He's found the sheep, the lost coin, the lost sheep in these people. Remember the question at the beginning. Why does your master eat with these lost people? With these no counts? Why? Okay. God doesn't call off the search for the lost. When does he call off the search for the lost?
Not at all.
Don't go Revelation on me or anything like that. It just right now. He's not calling it off, is he?
No.
No. He's a persistent God. When a person, maybe it's when a person blasphemes. No. Maybe when someone dies without having accepted God's invitation. Now that's one we can bandy about another night. Okay. If a miscreant commits an act so irredeemably horrible, Hitler, Stalin, Bin Laden, you name it, When exactly is it that God calls off the search for the lost? Well, according to these stories,
Never.
it doesn't. Now, I'm not talking about, in actual fact when the judgment happens and all that stuff. I'm not talking about that. But just think about that.
Mhm.
God is always on the lookout. He will judge. He will judge. Seems like God's searching love doesn't have any limits. The only limits that God's love has are the ones that we put on it.
That's right.
That's right.
Okay. And that's tough because we have to learn how to balance God's persistence with human responsibility too.
Exactly.
Okay. We have to balance that because it is entirely possible for a human being to just say no to God and walk away.
Yep.
And God not in his anger, not in his wrath, God in his tears says, okay. That's how much he loves us. That's how much he loves us. We will be responsible for making that decision. But I believe it will be our decision to make, whether or not we accept God or not. Okay. All right. Here's the next one, the big one. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Let's read. I tell you what, y'all want to break it up, you can. It's not that long, but somebody started at verse 11, and then when you get tired of reading, pass it off. We're going to read to verse 32. Okay, Luke 15, beginning at 11 and going through 32. Go ahead.
And he said, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me a share of property that is coming to me. And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything.
But,
Go ahead.
but when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread? But I perish here with hunger. I will rise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. And he rose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion and ran and embraced and kissed him.
Finish that up.
Then the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to the slaves, quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found, and they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dance. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has got him back safe and sound. Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him. Then the father said to him, son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.
Now I know we're used to calling this the prodigal son. prodigal means wasteful, extravagant, loose living son. But really, the most interesting character in this story is the father, the gracious and welcoming father. The father doesn't give a rip for contrite speeches. He says basically, save the repentance drama for your application to law school. You wanted a party? I'll show you a party better than anything that you had out there on the road, right? So why doesn't the father want to hear the son's carefully prepared apology?
The important thing to the father is that the son came home.
It doesn't matter. That's
Doesn't
right.
matter.
Doesn't matter. He came home. Right. The key there is he came to himself, and we like to load that up with all kinds of things. We like to load that. He went before a priest and confessed his sins and got clearance from Clarence, and then he headed back home with his story all ready to go. That phrase in the Greek it won't stand up to that. He just kind of one day just went, it's got to be better at home. I mean, I'd have three hots and a cot. I know Dad will take care of me. I mean, I'm going home, and he had his speech all prepared just in case, because he knew he said, Dad, can't you die already? Roll out the money. I'm ready to go. And his father did. That's what's so amazing. He did. So, but the father interrupts him, and it teaches us about grace. Grace interrupts. Grace disrupts. It especially disrupts legalistic people, Pharisees. Don't be flavored about the Pharisees, okay? They were people of the book. They, when Jerusalem was destroyed by the Romans and the temple was burned down, they became the leaders of Judaism following that. So it became about the people of the book, synagogues and all of that. You couldn't have sacrifices anymore because the temple was gone. So it became a Bible, if you will, a Bible-based, religion. Now, Willimon says what we wanted was for the father to receive the boy back home. Then there's supposed to be an unsmiling lecture, right? What we get is the father's extravagant, and this is Willimon, might I say, wasteful, prodigal, unconditional party. So the question he asks us to think about next is, why are we more comfortable with lectures than parties? And that's what we would expect, right?
Depends on how you grew up.
Huh?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think
Might have
so.
gotten a lecture and might have gotten something else. But
A
depends on how
physical
you-
lecture.
Yeah, how you
Yes,
grew up.
a
Correct.
physical lecture.
Correct.
That's what we're used to, right? When we messed up, no.
Oh, yes, I got.
Spare
more than
the
once.
rod, spoil the child. But in this story, the father, his son comes home and says, the one that said, I wish you were dead, give me my money, and went out and wasted all of it. And then he comes home, and I've been standing at the end of the driveway with my belt snapping,
I
going.
picture that father as having grieved all that time.
Yeah,
Well, and I see it too as how great his love was for his son.
yeah.
Yep.
That's not how we do things, is it? Not really.
No.
Not really. You may be the exception, but that's not really how we do it. Not really. We gotta get our pound of flesh in there. You embarrassed me, boy. And he did. He shamed his father. I mean, but then his father does something that's even more shameful. He ran to him. Jewish men didn't run to anybody for nothing. They didn't run. He had to pick up his robe, hike his robe up so he could run. He met his son. And it's astounding what happened after that. But meanwhile, the older brother comes in. Willimon says the older brother's grumbling reminds us of the griping of the Pharisees that occasioned this parable. Here we are again. We got here first. We've sat through years of boring Bible studies and engaged in Lenten self-denial practices, so forth and so on. What makes us? Are there times that we identify with the older brother? There certainly is for me. I do. I guess it just can't be helped sometimes.
I think with the physical body that we have, I mean, everybody in it would identify with the older brother because, hey, he's the one that was wrong. And the way we would normally look at it, it wouldn't be that the younger brother was wrong, it's the older brother got wrong. It's just like the parable of the guys going to work in the field. The
That's
guy
right.
works at 9, gets the same thing. The guy works at 6.
I told you, horrible economics. Yep, don't base it off of that. Yep.
Okay. So actually, this older son was working for himself because he had already received his inheritance.
That would be correct. Father would have split
And
it
at
between
nowhere in this story does it say that the father redistributed the inheritance after
Nope.
this.
them. No.
So I'm going, he hasn't been left out of anything. He's been working for himself, not his dad.
Well, remember,
That's my thinking.
remember, let's go back to who he represents in this story.
Yes.
He represents the Pharisees. We were here first. We've done all the legwork. I mean, we've been here since Moses, for goodness sake.
Well, and recognition.
Go ahead.
He may have been
That's
working
the
for
point.
himself, but I don't think his dad may have divided it and gave the money, but it actually didn't come to him until his dad died. Did it?
I have
Isn't that
no
the way it
idea.
normally works?
Yeah.
So even though he may be working for himself and all, he's still looking at it. Hey, for all he knows, the dad's gonna redistribute.
But look at his words to his father.
You didn't cook me a fatted calf.
Look, but here's the work. For all these years, I have served. Who is his father to him? Not his father. He's his employer.
Yeah.
There is no, and if you pay attention closely in this story, the father does the same thing for the prodigal as he does for the older brother. He goes out to both of them and meets both of them and reassures both of them of his love for them. I love you. But the son, the older son, got a bit of a chip on his shoulder because, he looked at his life with his father as service. And the Pharisees had a hard time with that too.
Yeah, I believe that.
And we got Pharisees in church today that have a hard time with that. Yes. So it's those people again. When we go back to that question. Well, here's a story from Willimon. He shares a story about a pastor who reached out to people in the piney woods beyond the train tracks where he was and baptized 4 people, but lost 5 church members. He had 8. This is a true story. He had 8 members in his church. He went out in the piney woods behind the train tracks and baptized 4 people, but lost 5 church members who said, "We don't want to go to church with a bunch of crackheads and their kids."
Oh my gosh. Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
And if you look at the older brother in this story, well, that's exactly how he's reacting. I don't really have any sympathy for the older brother. I don't really have any sympathy for the younger brother. I mean, they both kind of made their beds. But the thing is that God does have sympathy and love for both the older brother and the younger. But the question here is, when has your church struggled with welcoming those people? There's that question again. The crackheads and their kids. But here's Willimon's confession. And this is one that I should put as my handle on Facebook. I have met the grumbling, stuffy older brother. Me. I mean, it can be that way. So how can church leaders, well, let's see, I'm in a room full of them.
Yeah, you're.
Well, crap. And, how can church leaders like us avoid becoming older brothers? Let's talk about that.
Be more like Jesus.
Stand guarded. Pray.
Hey. Just for everything. I don't know. that's
Show
what-
love to everybody.
Yeah.
Serve in the garden.
Yeah.
I got a real axe right now that God's having to deal with me on. The lack of support for the garden. And I shouldn't say what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it on the recording. Don't say it's because of the individual who makes it difficult for me to be over there in the garden. I don't buy that. I don't want that. I don't want it. That's such a beautiful ministry over there.
Oh, it's a wonderful
Such a
ministry.
doggone beautiful ministry. And it needs our help more than our money. It needs that too, but we've got to. Jesus wants us to. And I'll very rarely say that because I get uncomfortable around people who know exactly what Jesus wants us to do and not to do. But I will tell you, it's a burden on my heart because I don't know what to do about it other than say, if we're not careful, that's older brother behavior. We're not going to do.
It is a ministry.
I'm just going to
Sure.
put it out there for us. And then I'm going to get us back on good terms. And it's on the recording, and I won't edit it. So there it is for those of you that are listening to this. Hey, what's the difference, though? This is a good question, y'all. What's the difference between faithful church membership and older brother syndrome? There's a difference. What's the difference? Think about it. There's no like, this is the answer, but there is.
People who go to church view that as they're giving to God, whereas, and that's where your older brother syndrome comes in. They're supposed to be giving to help others. I mean, it's good to go to church.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
We as Christians are supposed to be wanting to help others over and above going to church.
And I believe that there's a majority that are there to love on people.
Yeah.
And that is not the older brother.
No, that's not the older brother. But the
And I
older
think-
brother comes to church with the attitude of bless me if you can, and I'm going to make it really hard for you too.
And I think sometimes too, there are people who feel ownership.
The older brother certainly feels ownership. He
And-
wants to be served.
Yeah.
I have served you. Where's mine?
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not calling anybody out here. This is just saying, but I do agree that the majority of the folks, I think Kierkegaard, that's such a wonderful name. And if I ever had y'all read any of his stuff, you would forsake me. And I would not blame you. But it's wonderful and it's great. But Kierkegaard once said, okay, we've got this church thing all messed up. And I've used this in the past. We've got this church thing all messed up. He said, what we've got, and he said it in like 25,000 more words and much better than I am. But basically he said, okay, so what we have is up on the chancel, which is where the pulpit is and where the choir, hence the chancel choir. Up in the chancel, that's where the guys are up there. they're supposed to be the prompters, song leader, piano player, organ, whoever's up there. They're supposed to be the prompters of the worship. And then the congregation and the prompters together are worshiping an audience of one. Well, I tell you, I just didn't get anything out of that sermon today. Not a relevant question. It is from a consumerist standpoint, but the audience is God.
That's right.
But he said what we've done is we have got the worship leaders up on stage, and the audience is the congregation. And God may get in there some, but the congregation is the audience. And then the worship leaders are the ones. So that's where we get to the, well, I'll tell you what, those hymns today, those just didn't really do it for me. It's an audience mentality.
Yeah, right.
And that's a consumerist mindset. It goes back. I think the Catholics may have been on to something up until the 1960s with the Mass in Latin. I really think they would. I really think they might have. Can you imagine here in Lawrenceville, Georgia, in the late 50s, going over to St. Lawrence over here in Lawrenceville, and being a Roman Catholic and having the Mass said in Latin? Now, just think about that for a second, you know. But I'm just kidding, of course. But what I'm saying to you is, we've got it all messed up, and that's where you get older brother syndrome from. Some of it is that. But what last thing, and then I'll be done, because the whirling dervish that is Brian Durant will be in before too long.
I don't think so.
I saw something about that.
The church as search party. Yeah. He says the church as search party. His story about a young pastor, he tells the story. He says, our duty as citizens of God's kingdom, search, find, forgive, celebrate, repeat. Search, find, forgive, celebrate, repeat. That is so. But he does share this story here. He says the pastor who started knocking on the doors of our neighbors saw attendance nearly double, plus the pastor who hung out in bars. Because if you want me to stay away from that place, you're going to have to figure out how to keep Jesus out of that bar. Because he was going to the bar, and actually he wasn't himself drinking. All right, but he was there to talk to people about Jesus. Right? So the final questions are this. How is our church joining Jesus in seeking out, searching for, and saving the lost? I admit we can do a whole lot better there. I mean, in every church, even 12 Stone would say, because I use them because they're the guinea pig for all this. Even over at 12 Stone, they would say, we can allow God to work through us even more than He's already working through us. Guarantee it. Where might Jesus already be at work in our community that we haven't noticed?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sorry.
Nope, that's what I was thinking of.
And to discuss Willimon's challenge, the evangelistic missional question is, will we be a search party? At the end of Luke's gospel, the risen Christ, the teller of these tales, commissions his followers, all of them, to be evangelists. It's our job to tell all nations the good news of a feast that begins with a change of heart and life for the forgiveness of sins. Yeah. Now we could be doing better. And then I love what he says here, because it's almost done. He says, be honest. Do you think you would be among the celebrators, or would you be a grumbler outside the party for the homecoming of the prodigal son? That's why I asked that question at the beginning. When the church donor who decided, because his prodigal, would you be among the celebrators, or would you be a grumbler? I would have been sitting there ready to write out the routing number for the account, waiting, and then all of a sudden, here comes this boy, and he gives it to him. So, it's a good question. And then the last one, how's our church joining with Jesus and seeking out and searching for and saving the lost. I think when we have opportunity, I just pray that when we do have opportunities, I pray that we'll be obedient. That's all. But it is tough sometimes because that older brother is in all of us. It's just happens. So, all right. So, reckless God. Reckless God. Next week, crumbs from the table. Oh, that's going to be a good one. We're going to look at the story of Lazarus and the rich man. Lunch at the house of Zacchaeus. This will be fun. All right. So I hope, good Lord willing, and Jesus doesn't return, we'll, if he does, that's
All
fine.
right.
It's fine with me. And I hope it is with you too. So, let's have a prayer. Father, for this night, we give you thanks, and I thank you for this time that we've had together. Thank you for your reckless, scandalous, amazing love and grace, which is available to everyone, all the time. Thank you for that. May we faithfully search out, seek out. Only you can save, but help us, Lord, to have a heart for the lost. And all of this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, here we go.